episode 23 of the Electric Scooter Podcast. Danger, danger. Today, we're going to visit with Zero to Epic. He has completed his trip across the United States a day early. He came in contact with a couple sketchy situations, and we're going to talk about it. So welcome to the Electric Scooter Podcast's Danger episode. Zero to Epic. Aloha, Dagwood Streets. Your not-so-humble host of the Electric Scooter Podcast, here with Zero to Epic, once again in the beautiful city of Blue Diamond, Nevada, a little jewel nestled in Red Rock Canyon. This is our favorite place to interview Zero to Epic. Please understand, you're going to hear birds twittering in the background. You may hear waitresses shuffling plates. It just adds to the ambiance, the ambient noise you may hear. So I'm pretty excited, and I know Zero to Epic is happy to be here because he just completed an incredible journey all the way from Boston, Massachusetts is where you started, right? And you ended up in Newport, Oregon. So we talked as you were coming across the United States, and so we do have some information already. We don't have information about how it was and how your reception was in Oregon, and I'm sure some people met with you to do write-ups and all that kind of thing. And we have a number of topics. There's just so many things to ask. We want to go over lessons learned, some tips on how you would set up scooters, what you learned, what you would do differently this time. Of course, being who I am, I'm going to mention food, even if it's briefly. Maybe some gear, some of the highlights, some of the things that did and didn't work for you. I'd like to talk a little bit about the scooters at some point, the different states you scooted through. I know you had a couple low points because you had one video that was, what was it titled? Like, I'm not feeling good, or this today was very bad. It had a really negative and I watched it, and you were like, oh, you were beat down. And then we'll have a couple questions for you. So to start off, you could say whatever you want. It's all going to be good and interesting. What were some of the lessons that you learned crossing?
Well, first of all, good to see you again.
Oh, yeah, you
Dagwood.
too, my brother.
Yeah, it's been over a month, and we used to meet here. I'm happy to be back here at Cottonwood. A lot of people that I've seen or spoken to since I came back from my trip, they greet me with, "You made it." And when the first person asked me that, I was, oh, that's interesting. Maybe they didn't think I would, but several people greeted me that way. So I started asking them, did you ever doubt that I would make it? And they said, we did. And having done the trip, I realized that they were, probably on the right track because it was definitely a dangerous trip.
It was more difficult than you anticipated, would you say?
It was more difficult in ways that I didn't expect them to be. And it was easier in the ways that I thought it would be harder. So, we'll cover all of that. Okay. I didn't think that I would be riding in so much traffic, in such high-speed traffic. I thought it was going to be slower. I thought there was going to be more shoulder space for me to ride on. There were several places around the country that there was no shoulder, and if there was a shoulder, it was maybe a foot wide.
Wow, that's dangerous.
So it was very, very dangerous. And a lot of trucks, a lot of semis going by me. And I'm talking, they're going by me 3 feet.
I've been in a sports car in a convertible. I used to own a BMW Z3, put the top down. And I'm telling you, on the freeway, matching the speed of an 18-wheeler being near it was harrowing. I can't imagine being on a scooter and have an 18-wheeler pass by me that close.
Well, and then the wind, what they do to the direction of the wind and all that. I mean, I'm on a little scooter, and it's windy. Obviously I rode for 29 days nonstop. Every day I rode about 6 to 7 hours. So there were windy days, and you try to work with the wind depending on the direction which it's blowing. It could be blowing you onto the road, blowing you off the road, and then a semi goes by you, and this everything changes, and you get thrown all over the place. So yeah, those moments were definitely not fun and scary. So yeah, so when people say you made it, I think they weren't so far off track. It was definitely a dangerous trip.
Well, you would have been forgiven if you would have, on a couple of the colder days or a couple windy days, if you'd have taken a day off and kicked back in a hotel and watched some Netflix. And I'm telling you, honestly, that is what I would have done. I would have just hung out a little bit. I would have taken the easy route. But you decided, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you go every single day, no matter the condition?
Correct. I went every single day, and every day I did at least the distance I was set out to do. And I rode in the rain. I rode in the rain in the very beginning of the trip. It was about a 7-8 hour day. All day it was pouring. It didn't let off for 1 second, and I rode every single minute. So I rode in the rain. Towards the end of the trip, it was actually snowing. So I rode in the snow, I rode in the cold, you name it, the condition, I did it very, very cold. Most of my trip was in the 40s and 50s, and that's before wind chill. So there were days that I rode, I think the wind chill was about 28 degrees. It was miserable, but I did it. Yeah, I didn't want to take days off. I wanted to get to the other side. So should I have taken days off? Absolutely. Should I have taken the rainy days off? Absolutely.
Yeah. Netflix and chill.
Yeah. Could I have taken, cold days off? I could have, but no, there was no, I was on a mission and I was going to go through it. After I rode in the rain, I decided I wasn't going to ride again if it was raining that hard. So had it rained really, really hard later in the trip, I probably would have taken a day off, but it didn't. It just drizzled. And thankfully for me, I had Brian Farr, my support guy. He's a meteorologist by trade.
Really?
He was actually a TV meteorologist, like in the news.
That is so handy.
So, here we live in Las Vegas, and it's pretty much sunny every day. So the weather's predictable. But where I was riding, especially in the Midwest, you could have a sunny day, and 30 minutes later, it's pouring. You don't know where it comes from. You don't know what's going on.
That's
and it's
why
raining.
We don't live there right now, right?
So he would track. He has this little tracker on his phone, and he would tell me there's rain 10 minutes from now. It was so valuable. And he would tell me, what do you want to do? He says the rain is literally 5 minutes away. I'm like, I don't see it. He goes, trust me, it's 5 minutes away. So I'd ride 5 minutes, and he'd meet me 5 minutes later, and we could feel the sprinkles. I'd get in the car. We'd wait for the rain to pass. Then I'd go out and ride again.
Way to do it. And how did your gear hold up? Were you wearing appropriate shoes and stuff that could handle the rain, or did you just get soaked?
I got soaked. I did have gear. I ride motorcycle gear, so that's most of what I rode is motorcycle gear, which was waterproof. And all was well. And I even had this poncho, this rain poncho that one of my sponsors gave me, Odin Manufacturing. So they gave me this poncho, which I put over my clothes. And even in the rain, I was okay, right? I was dry. The problem was when it was raining really hard and I went over these water puddles, the water would come from under my pants. So, the rain is coming from the top, so but when you go through a puddle, then the water shoots up,
Could you tie off the bottom of your pants? Once you're already wet, though, right?
I should have, right? But I didn't have anything, and I didn't expect to ride through puddles, right? I just saw rain. I'm like, I'll just keep riding, and my shoes were waterproof, but still yet. They got wet. Once the water got in through the bottom, then my socks were soaking wet, then the shoes were wet, so I changed. I stopped, changed all my clothes, but I didn't have any more waterproof clothes, put on regular clothes, got soaked again. It was just a disaster.
Did you rely on certain scooters? Like when you knew it was going to rain, did you say, well, this one has an IPX rating, so I'm grabbing this one, or you just went with
I did.
And it all worked?
No.
Which ones did
The Apollo Phantom had an IPX rating, so I rode that, and it survived because a lot of people told me after they saw me riding, and it was pouring rain. So it wasn't like it was just drizzling, any scooter will make it. I rode that scooter in the rain. And some people messaged me on Facebook, and they said, you're going to see problems with that scooter in a few days, and I didn't. I continued riding it. I rode the Wolf Warrior 11 in the rain, and it survived.
My Wolf Warrior with the off-road tires, I would not ride in the rain. Check this out. I shone a light through the deck plate. I sent this picture to Voro Motors to Melvin. I shined a light on one side, and on the other side, I could see straight through it clearly. So water is on mine. I don't know if I just got a particular warped deck or what it was, but that thing I would not ride in the rain. I'd end up getting electrocuted or frying the bottom of my feet or something.
Yeah. Now that said, do I recommend riding in the rain? Absolutely not. If you're riding and it starts raining, then maybe
get out of the rain.
Get out of the rain, but maybe you're stuck. But don't go out riding in the rain. It's unsafe. I rode with a full face helmet, and my face shield just got all fogged up. Which was fogged up.
Oh, that is fogged up, man. That's seriously fogged up. I like what Paul Somerville, the electric scooter guide, likes to say. He says he wears a full-face helmet because the front of his face happens to be the favorite part of his head. So he doesn't want it all dented up and scratched up. So wearing a full-face helmet, really, there's no other way. That's the way to go.
Here's what happened yesterday. So I'm home, see my daughters again for the first time in over a month. And my youngest daughter, we went on a scooter ride yesterday. So
which one did she ride?
She rode the Inokim Ox.
Oh, cool. She wanted to be styling.
Yeah. So we rode, and she is still getting comfortable on scooters. And, youngsters, they don't like wearing all the gear sometimes. But I said, I have a helmet for you. You're going to wear a full-face helmet. So we rode for a good 45 minutes, and it started drizzling. And I was like, well, we'll make it home. It wasn't hard. It was just drizzling. So we're literally a mile from my house. We take a right turn, and down she goes.
Really?
Yeah.
She ate it?
She ate it.
Was she hurt, or is she okay?
She's hurt. Yeah, not terribly. She fell and scraped her knee.
Oh, was she wearing long pants or shorts?
No, she was wearing shorts, which is her father's fault, but I thought it'd be okay. But she was wearing the full-face helmet, and she fell, and I saw her falling, and she fell right on her face.
Wow.
And so the front of the helmet is all scuffed up.
I know the feeling, though. Don't feel too bad, because it happened to me just last night, actually, that I had to convince someone to put on a helmet. And I keep a bag that has knee pads and elbow pads and all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of a stretch to you get the helmet and you feel like you succeeded. It's like, because they didn't want that. Oh, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And I would really prefer the elbows and the knee pads, but sometimes I don't press it because it might be a deal breaker. All right, Dad, well, you just go on your own then. I'm not putting all that junk on.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, it depends on who you are. I think people need to know the risk and make their own decisions. So I'm not one to, if my child was 10 years old, I'd be, okay, you have to wear something. But I think as a teenager, and that's just the way I raise my kids, is you need to know the risk. They're old enough to know the risk they're taking. And if something happens, be okay with whatever happens.
At a certain age, they're telling themselves, hey, I don't need advice from this guy. He doesn't think, I have to prove to him that I'm old enough and I can make my own decisions. And a lot of times, I have grown children also, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah, but the helmet was for me, I told her you have to wear.
I'm glad she's okay. What kind of helmet was it?
Oh, man, just some helmet that I had laying around the house.
Which motorcycle full face?
A motorcycle full face. Actually, it's it's not even a motorcycle. It's a like a mountain biking helmet,
yeah,
like those off-road looking things. And somebody sent it to me, and it was too small, so I just gave her that.
If you're like me, I would say 20 helmets because I don't know why I don't throw them away over the years. And some of them are, $300-400 Shoeis. I like Shoei. I notice you're riding a Shoei. It goes by, whether you're a Rai person or a Shoei person, it goes by the shape of your head. So maybe that's why we think alike. We have similarly shaped heads.
Yeah, we're knucklehead shaped people. But yeah, I'm a Shoei head. I try to Rai, and if you're a motorcycle rider, you either have a Shoei head or an Arai head.
Yeah, because when you put on the Arai, it doesn't fit right. You put on the Shoei.
So I'm definitely a Shoei head.
Yeah, I do recommend to people, as I'm sure you do, a motorcycle full-face helmet is the way to go on scooters. Now, do I do that 100% of the time? I don't. I got a little skid lid, they call it, a little half one, and I got some mountain bike ones and stuff. If I'm going across the street to grab some groceries or something, sure, can you wipe out? Yeah, you could. And if I did wipe out and got hurt, I would regret not wearing the full face. But if I'm like you and we go out off-road and we're hitting these total rocky areas, I mean, yeah, you are a knucklehead if you're not wearing a full face helmet because there's a good chance of going down. Remember, we were hitting some of those really high hills
Absolutely.
that you look down, man, you tumble down there. That's bad news.
Yeah, and we promote scooters as a means of transportation, especially in downtowns, with the shared scooters. And the people that are riding those, they're not wearing, they don't even have a helmet. True. And so I think if the speed is low, I think you need to decide if you think it's safe, but
if you're in Seattle and you're downtown and you're going to jump on a rental scooter, you're not carrying a helmet with you.
You're not, and most people are not. I'm going to say 99.9% of the people, because I've been to those cities and I've seen the shared, you just hop on and you go. But the speeds are obviously a lot lower. So I rode during Scoot America 100% of the time, every minute of my trip, I had a full face
That's the way to go.
Motorcycle helmet on. So, but that's just me, and I'm riding in much more dangerous conditions than people just going downtown Seattle riding. So.
And the front part of your face is probably one of your favorite parts of your head, right? It's got your eyeballs, your nose, that's where you eat, all that stuff.
Yeah, and obviously I was on a cross-country mission, so if something happened to me, I didn't have the luxury to spend a week recovering. So even if I did fall,
knowing you would have jumped back on and kept
so
going.
I had to keep going. So I said, even if I do crash on with this helmet, I'll still be okay to go tomorrow. It's not like here, I'll take a chance. If I crash, I'll just lay low for a few days at home. I couldn't do that. So that's another reason I wore the full face.
I saw a YouTube video, I think it was in the Philippines, where two guys scootering, and the guy in the back was filming the guy in the front. And I don't know what happened. He just all of a sudden ate it.
Yeah, I saw that video.
Yeah, he was wearing the full face helmet, and you saw the whole side of it and the jawline and everything was just scraped. I don't know what happened with that. Maybe he let go for a second, or he just lost focus or concentration, because they're not like motorcycles. You can't let go with one arm for a while, and you certainly can't go like a motorcycle. When I come to a stop a lot of times on my motorcycle, I let go completely and just kind of cruise up to the stop sign. I don't know, maybe that's not a great habit to do, but I do that sometimes. And on a scooter, also has two wheels, but something about the dynamics and the physics of the way you're standing and the weight distribution, can't do it. Don't do it.
Attention, scooter heads the world over. Pay attention to what Zero to Epic is about to say.
Do not ride electric scooters with one-handed.
No.
Don't ever do that.
Two hands, always.
Yeah. And I rode a lot of scooters during Scoot America, and I rode a lot of miles. And I occasionally would take my hands off because I had to wave to Brian, who was on the side of the street.
You don't like doing it.
I had to, and I learned which scooters have better balance and less good balance.
The more stable, probably the wider tire ones.
You'd be surprised. I think it's scooter specific. I think it's the way they're built. Some were much easier, and some were like I just take one hand off and the whole thing would start shaking. So yeah, but do not ride. And Paul Somerville, he can attest to that. Yeah, you don't want to do it.
It might have been was it the Kim he broke? I can't
it was the Wolf.
The Wolf King. You're right. It was
Wolf
the
King.
Wolf King. Yeah, which that thing. Wow. and that thing goes fast. I don't know what speed he was going when it happened. And he's a motorcyclist and
he's a racer. He knows if people that know what they're doing are falling, like just the average rider shouldn't try it.
So I got to ask this. You crossed 3,600 plus miles. Did you eat it once or twice? Or?
I did not.
You never ate it one time?
I did not.
That's
I came
incredible.
very, very close.
Okay, let's hear that. Let's hear the closest call. You don't want to talk about it?
No, I can talk about it. I don't mind. And I didn't share it, my close calls during the trip, because I didn't want to worry my family. My mom, my wife, and they now know the story since I got back. But I came extremely close. And 2 of the times, people just turned in front of me. I was riding. This was earlier in the trip, and I was just riding. And here's what I do. Was my strategy from the get-go. Is if I'm riding, and I'm riding on the shoulder, and say I'm going one direction, and you see a car coming from the other direction, and they want to turn left in front of you. Can you imagine that? So they want to make a left turn, and they're going to turn in front of you. There's no stoplight or stop sign or nothing. There's just a road that they want to turn into. So I look back, and I see if there's anybody coming behind me. That's the first thing I do. If there's no one coming behind me and it's just me, I go in the middle of the road. Okay, I go on the road and I start swerving around a little bit, trying to make myself visible to the guy turning left.
Yeah.
So I was doing that. Okay, because if there's a car coming behind me, I'm like, okay, they at least see the car. So
if you're on the Wolf, you have that blinking headlight too, right?
Correct, but I'm not going to start. I did use the blinking headlight, but if I'm not, I may have some scooters that don't have any lights. Like the Mantis Pro SE doesn't have any lights.
Right.
I could be on that. So anyway, I try to make myself as visible as possible. And I was riding, and I saw this guy wanting to make a turn, and he was taking his time. And of course, you're hoping they see you. But at the very last minute, he turned anyway in front of me, and I was on the 011X, which is a large 130-pound scooter.
That is the biggest of all the scooters you have.
So I slam on the brakes, and I lock him up, and I start skidding, and I stop maybe, I don't know, like 12 inches from his car. It was a big truck. It was a F-150 truck, and I came so close to crashing into him, and he just looks at me, and it's like, oh,
yeah, whatever,
my bad,
dude.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And they keep going.
Scooterheads have to think about safety. Don't want to get creamed by an F-150.
So that was the first time.
So the brakes worked well, the hydraulic brakes, and you mashed both the front and rear, right?
Yes. And but I trained that. I trained locking my brakes here in Las Vegas. I'd go on dirt roads.
So you leaned back and then mashed both of them?
I don't say I would say I leaned back a little bit.
It might have been too fast.
Of course you train and you're all prepared to do it, but when it happens in real life, you just lock them up and pray for the best. But I didn't crash. I didn't even fall off the scooter. And then another time I was also riding, and there was this girl coming from my right side. So she's coming from a street, on my right, and she's about to cross in front of me. You get it? So I'm going. She's coming from my right. She's coming on the street, and then she stops, and then she wants to take a left turn, in front of me, and then go left. So I see her, and I thought she saw me. She waited, and last minute again, she just goes right in front of me. I lock my brakes also on the 011X. And I just slammed the brakes. And, I stopped like 2 inches from her, and she just raised her hand like, oh, sorry, and kept going, and I'm just furious. But anyway, those 2 times were like right in the beginning of the trip, right? So the third time, this was the closest I came to crashing. So I'm riding on this road, and there's houses on the right side. Okay, so there's no business, nothing. So there's houses on the right side. And they're the houses that have the mailbox on the street where the USPS, the postal, the mailman stops the truck, and their seat is on the right side of the truck. They just put the mail in the little box, and then they keep moving onto the next house. Well, I saw this mailman or mailwoman, whatever, the truck in front of me.
Postal worker.
The postal worker. There you go. So
it sounds more scary, too, when you say postal worker. Because it's never like, postal worker, brings flowers to their loved one. It's like, postal worker goes
Yeah,
ballistic.
goes postal.
Yeah, maybe I'll add a little wicked music when you say postal worker.
So the postal worker is stopped on the road. I don't know what they're doing at that moment, right? So I see the postal worker, and then I see the postal worker moving onto the street. So I'm like, okay, the postal worker was just stopped. Now they're moving. They're going to go on the street and keep going. So for some reason, I look back for something. I don't know what was happening. And I look back, and then when I look to the front, the postal worker is stopped right in front of me.
To look at their phone or something,
No,
or sort through the mail?
They were just putting the mail in the next house. But I didn't know they were going from house to house. I thought it was just stopped there for some reason and it was taking off. But it actually was going just a few feet ahead. So I assumed the truck was just going away, right? So I look back. When I look for the thing is literally right in front of me. So there's no time to lock the brakes. There's no time. Like, I'm not going to, I know if...
So you leaped over the handlebars and into the back of the truck and then winked at the postal worker and said, hey, what's happening?
So I just went left. I just swerved around it onto the road.
That's way less exciting than my version.
Yeah. So, it is. But that's the truth. So, yeah, there was no time to... If I locked them, I'd run into. So I just swerved left onto the road, try to control it because by then I was already almost falling. Then I went back and finally, and I swear my throat, my heart was coming out of my throat. I was so scared. And that was, again, it was probably, I'm going to say, about not even a third into the trip. And after that...
What state was it? Do you remember?
I don't remember. It was probably around
one of those,
like New York State.
One of those not Nevada states.
Yeah, I think it was New York State somewhere. I don't know, maybe near Buffalo or Albany or something. But anyway, long story short, is after the first two accidents, which were, again, near misses in the beginning of the trip, and after my postal worker incident, I honestly thought, there's no way I'm going to make it out of this trip. Hopefully alive, but
is that when you were
unscathed.
hitting your low point, kind of?
No, that was not my low point. I started worrying about my safety at that point. I said, I just started, and I've gotten all these close misses. And there was one thing that was in the back of my head is I spoke to a very high level executive at one of the scooter companies. Spoke to him on the phone, and he told me, said, Alex, statistics don't lie. Okay. You're going to have 2 accidents before the end of your trip. He says, those are the stats. Like, you ride that many miles, you will have 2 big accidents before the end of your trip. And when those things happen, I started thinking about this guy. And I said, I think the guy was right. Like, I will have an accident.
Statistics don't always tell the story. And I think you might have heard me say this before. I don't know if you have, but I'll say it again. The statistics for over the last 5 years of people in scooters being admitted to emergency rooms, fully 80%, and this gets lost in the statistics, 80% have 2 things in common. Not one or the other, but they both have over-the-limit alcohol levels, and they're not wearing helmets. So if you're looking at statistics and you're saying, oh, yeah, you're definitely going to get an accident or whatever because these are the statistics, you are a triathlete. You're a person who trained for months prior to doing this, and you wore a helmet and safety gear. And I would easily argue that you're in the very top percentile of skilled scooter riders, which I think would make you, it doesn't put you in the same category as a person without a helmet who's drunk.
Yeah, plus, and people ask me this all the time. I say, okay, so you rode, say, average of 7 hours a day. What do you listen to?
Yes, I asked you that.
I listen to nothing.
Nothing.
Complete silence, right?
I'd have podcasts all day long.
The reason I was able to evade those accidents, I think, is partially because of that. And my attention, and my reaction time, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. So yes, I am, in terms of focus and focusing on the road. And even when I almost hit the postal
Worker. Postal worker.
You know, I was able to get out of the way, and so yeah, you know, I was fully focused, and I think it saved me from hitting a lot of potholes, and because there is no in a scooter, you know, the roads are crap. A lot of them.
They're not made for scooters.
They're not made for scooters, especially the shoulder. Like
they should be.
So many roads, I would look at the road where the cars are. I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. That's really nice, and it's like a carpet. I look at the shoulder. Like, this is unacceptable, right? So the shoulder is the most dangerous part. Plus, it's where all the debris goes.
You're right. When there's
people don't
accidents,
think about that.
No, yeah.
All of the nuts and boats
yeah.
and
Bits
animals
glass,
and
headlights that got smashed.
Yeah, all the roadkill, everything ends up in the shoulder. So the number of bolts and nuts and things that I had to swerve and hold, and nobody fixes the shoulder. Like, they fix the road, but the shoulder, if there's a hole, they don't care. So that's where I'm riding, right? And of course, I don't have a car. I have scooters with little wheels. Anything I hit,
it's exaggerated because of the smaller wheels. Well, I'll tell you how the story with the postal worker would have ended up if it were Dagwood Streets. I would be listening to a podcast on how to make an omelet, because I've already gone through every podcast of anything interesting, right? Because right now I listen to podcasts all day long. And I would have ended up, I won't tell you what happens in between because this isn't a 3-hour podcast, but I would almost guarantee you that night when I was taking a shower, I'd probably pull a couple stamps out of my ear with, you know, Amelia Earhart on them or whatever. That's the way it would have ended up for me, because I would not go 7 hours on a scooter without listening to somebody, or at least music. But music can throw you off too. If you're listening to something really cool, you might start moving your shoulders. Yeah, that could throw you off too. 0 to epic, folks. The man who endured trial and tribulation to honor his father, the environmentalist, and bring awareness to the world about PEVs and electric scooters to make the world a better place. You got to admire that. He endured. He even came back early. But that's not the end. Stay tuned next episode. We're going to talk about things like scootering versus bicycles, whether he'd do it again. Is he going to have another adventure? And what was the coolest state to scoot through? There's a lot more to come, so stay tuned, scooter heads. And until next time, keep the shiny side up and the dirty side down.